Thanks for joining us today in our beautiful First Star Logistics Studios for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham. Our special guest today, in honor of Draft Week, Duke Tobin, Director of Player Personnel for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's the conductor. He's the maestro of the NFL Draft as far as the Cincinnati Bengals organization goes. And we'll talk to him about free agency, the draft, college free agency. I think you're going to like what he has to say. Duke Tobin has an opinion on every single player they drafted, as you would imagine. And I think you're going to like the entirety of the draft. Welcome once again to our beautiful studios at First Star Logistics. We've got a great podcast for you today. Special guest, Duke Tobin. I like to refer to Duke, the Duke of Earl, man, because he is the Duke. And Director of Player Personnel for the Cincinnati Bengals, does an outstanding job. Duke, another successful draft, another very strong draft. Now that you've had a day or two to reflect on it, give me your first thoughts.
Well, we're still happy with it. We were the first day, we were the second day, we still are here today, so that's good. You know, Dave, as we were going through it, we just kept thinking to ourselves, you know, WWLD, what would Lapham do? And so we just kept picking big guys, you know. When we were torn between two, we would just ask ourselves, what would Lapham do? And there we were, picking the big guy.
Before we get into a deep dive into the draft, there's so much to talk about with respect to Duke Tobin. It's going to be a little bit of This Is Your Life, Duke. So back in the day, you were a multi-sport athlete. Hersey High School, right? You won a state championship in football your junior year in high school as a quarterback, but you also played baseball, basketball, even a little bit of hockey. I mean, you were a well-rounded stud athlete. Playing all the sports, was that an influence of your dad, or did you just gravitate toward all of them? What was the story on that?
Well, hockey, not so much. I wasn't that good of a skater. So as a very young age, I found out that I wasn't a very good skater, and so hockey was out. I don't know. It was a different time, you know. A lot of my friends, a lot of us played all the sports we could.
Sure.
I think it's become a little more specialized in high schools now. I think I don't necessarily think that's a great thing, but it's just the reality of the world today that a lot of these high school athletes are starting to specialize. My buddies and I in high school, it was next season, and we moved on. We went from football to basketball and basketball to baseball, and it was just kind of a natural thing to do.
Absolutely. That's the same thing that I remember. Whatever season it was your favorite sport. You just went right to that. What was it like winning the state championship your junior year in high school?
Oh, it was. It's still one of the more memorable things in my life. Really, you build so many good bonds in high school, and when you go through an experience like that, it just brings you closer. And I'm still really close with a lot of those guys that I played with, and they're really my best friends and lifelong friends. And so the things you remember are the people you did it with, and it was fun. We were really bad the year prior. I think we won one game.
Wow!
And then we won the state championship. So it was kind of a fun thing, and a lot of we reminisce a lot when we get together over beers.
Man, that's unbelievable. That's a heck of a story right there. Then you go on to play at Illinois and Colorado, play the quarterback position, and you also play in the Arena League with the Orlando Predators and the Memphis Pharaohs in arena football. What were those experiences like at the collegiate and professional level for you?
The college experience was enjoyable. I was on good teams. I had a lot of good teammates. I had a lot of teammates that played in the NFL that got drafted, and so I learned at a young age kind of what it looked like. Those guys were different than everyone else on the team, and you can kind of see that and kind of shaped who I was as an evaluator a little bit. Just getting to play with a lot of really talented guys at both schools. And then in the pros, not so much memorable. I wasn't ready to give up. I probably should have been, and so I spent a couple of years living the dream of perhaps being Kurt Warner, and that didn't happen. So, but I went to the Memphis Pharaohs in the expansion draft of I was an unprotected expansion draft player that went to the Memphis Pharaohs and tore my ACL, and then I thought, well, maybe I'm not going to be Kurt Warner. I'm probably going to be something else, and so that's what I became.
Your dad was a hell of a football player in college and played professionally, and he put together, unbelievable football teams. The Bears, the '86 Bears. He was the architect. The Colts teams that Harbaugh was part of as a quarterback. Your dad put those successful football teams together, and he's still going strong. He's still working with you.
He's still a big part. He's a big part of what we do still, Dave. And we've been fortunate that he's wanted to work and has helped us out. And he's been instrumental in a lot of the picks that we've made. And so it's great. It's great working with him. And, growing up, pro football was all I knew. It's really all I've known all my life. And so it's just the opportunity to be around really good teams, really good players. It's helped me in my job for sure.
Football family for sure. Your uncle Vince was defensive coordinator for Chicago Bears. Obviously, did you ever think about the coaching aspect of it?
Early on a little bit, but I just felt like I was prepared for this aspect of it a little more, and haven't seen it my whole life, and it was just kind of a natural transition. It's the opportunity I got, and I stayed with it once I got it.
You've been with the Bengals since 1999, so 4 decades, Duke. That's what happens when you start the last year of a decade, and now we're in the early stages of another decade. But 4 decades now, you've been working with the Cincinnati Bengals, so that's quite a run. When you look at what's gone on this offseason, let's transition to today with the Cincinnati Bengals. It starts with deciding what you're going to do with your own free agents, then going into free agency with everybody else before the draft even starts. How did you feel the first couple of phases of that went for yourselves?
I think one thing you said is you decide what you're going to do. You decide what you want to do. It doesn't always happen. You don't always get to choose with whether guys re-sign with you or not, or what the price tags actually become as it gets going. So, yeah, we sketched out guys we wanted back, guys we were going to push to get back. And then we identify guys around the league that we think are fits for us. And then when the thing kicks off, you take advantage of the opportunities you get. And when guys show interest, that's when you really push if they fit what we want. And so we were able to push in some areas and really solidify a lot of positions on our team. I thought free agency went well. The last 2 years we went into it. Not every year do you feel like free agency is the avenue you need to go, but the last 2 years, we felt like our team needed help in a number of areas, and the free agent market is one way to go get it.
You redid your linebacker position in the 2020 draft, basically. Redid the secondary in free agency, and then you addressed the defensive front in this year's draft. You really did a good job of taking each position group and addressing it in a very, very nice fashion where it was doubling down, getting multiple players. I think that's real important. And then we're going to talk about the draft, obviously, but then the next phase here after the draft, the June 1st is a deal where with salary cap ramifications, there may be other things where veteran players you might consider, whatever the case may be, or extending contracts of guys like a Jesse Bates or a Sam Hubbard or guys of that caliber. Is that in play, or when does that start? When June 1st is the date, obviously, but obviously conversations, all those things start a lot sooner, don't they?
Yeah, the team is never truly done. It's always a work in motion that you continually monitor, and you monitor the people that are available to you that are maybe free agents still. You monitor your own team as to who's coming up, And we've always tried to be proactive with giving our own players an opportunity to re-sign early if they've proven that they're the real deal. And so we've done that over the history here, and we'll continue to do that. And I would imagine this offseason will hopefully be able to get something done there with some future free agents that are coming up on our team.
How different was this year of free agency with COVID-19? A lot of one-year contracts. The market as strong or stronger financially, economically than you thought it might be? In terms of length of contracts, looked like it was a little different. But some guys still get big dollars, but other guys it dried up quickly for, didn't it?
I think so. It usually dries up, after the first wave of big contracts. It normally starts to dry up. I think we probably saw less mid-level contracts. Maybe it went all the way down to the minimum style contracts a little earlier. But the top guys still got paid. They still got money, and I think we felt in our heart that would probably happen. We were unsure too exactly how the market would go. And I think there are teams that are still stretching to get enough salary cap to actually get through the year. And so there will still be some adjustments being made around the league. I think we're in good position to get through the year and to possibly do some extensions as we go.
Sounds like a plan there. Let's talk about the draft. You had 10 draft picks. 7 of those picks were in the trenches. Just like the podcast, in the trenches, Duke. We're talking big bodies, and obviously, I know you're a believer in you set your board, and you believe in the value of players doing all that work, setting your board. Did it just work that way, where the best available player on a round by round basis? I mean, say there was an edge rush guy, and there might have been a corner or a safety or a tight end or whatever you're thinking about, and then he goes, and the best guy on the board becomes another edge rush guy and go that route. Is that how it happened? Or I guess my question is, you didn't have to reach for these guys. These guys just fell the way you had hoped they might fall when you set your board.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players we didn't get in the draft that we had a lot of regard for as well.
Sure.
So you want to be true to the ability level of where you're picking. And we tried to address our needs, but we also tried to stay true to the board to where we weren't dropping down a level of talent in our estimation to take a guy at a position of need. And then, the board felt pretty well to us. You never walk out of the draft with every player. We probably had 100 players that we liked that we would have welcomed. And, but the 10 we got are 10 that we felt good about going into the draft. And the way it worked out is we're pleased with it. We really are. But yeah, we didn't go into the draft saying we're going to take this number at any position. It worked out that way, and when the talent was there, and we had to double up at a position, we felt like our team can handle that, and our team can use extra help at those positions.
Well, let's go through the draft a little bit, Duke. With the 5th pick of the draft, you stay at number 5. How busy were the phones? Was there much dialogue? Did you get many phone calls about potentially making moves?
Dialogue is mostly prior to. There wasn't a ton of dialogue as the early part of the round unfolded. But prior to, there's always dialogue. We felt very good about sitting where we were and picking Jamar. And, he was a guy that we felt great about at that level of the draft.
So he's got a lot of unbelievable traits, obviously, but what if you had to pick a couple of things, what led you to Jamar?
Strength, explosiveness, hands, ball skills, the ability to track, the ability to compete, his run after catch, his ability to make high point catches down the field. He's got tremendous body control, tremendous work ethic. He adds a speed element that we needed, and really just a complete wide receiver.
The thing that you've done such a good job in the last couple of drafts and continue to do, these guys are being picked from very successful programs, big programs, multiple year starters, co-captains, in a lot of cases over the last couple of years. I mean, is that an intentional thing? Are you really making character of the player a big priority like that?
Yeah, that's an important piece of every player. Each player is an independent case study, so they have to be really good in another area if you're going to overlook, maybe a character flaw or maybe a bigger competition jump than some people make. So every guy's an independent case study. We felt really good, but the traits that you're talking about are part of the reason that we really liked these players and graded them accordingly on our board.
So then with the second pick, you're at the 38th spot initially, and you decide that you're going to trade back at that point in time. And you go from 38 to 46, and you pick Jackson Carman, the big boy out of Clemson that played right here in Fairfield at Fairfield High School. What was the thought process of moving down from 38 to 46 and then getting the haul, Duke? I mean, 2 fourth-round picks. I mean, that was a big time move right there. What was your thought process?
Yeah, we would have been comfortable sitting and picking right where we were. We got an opportunity. We had a team that wanted to move up for a player. We felt good about the universe of player that would be available by moving down, and the compensation was enough to get us to do that. We ended up with a guy that we felt great about, that we had targeted earlier anyway, and so the way it really turned out, it was good. It was almost. From our standpoint, we're getting a couple extra picks and the same player we would have otherwise taken.
Yeah, I mean he's a special player in terms of size and athleticism. I mean his feet, he's got some nimble feet on him. What other things did you like or do you like about Jackson Carman from a physical standpoint as a football player?
Yeah, like you said, he's explosive. He's big. He is an NFL body type. He's 6'5". He's 320 some pounds. He has initial quickness. He's played left tackle, for the best college team in the last 5 years, and he started there for 2 years. They rave about his physical talent, and then the more we got to know him, the more we started to appreciate his intelligence level and his personality, and the fact that he's local is great as well. He's got a comfort level with our city, but he's powerful. He's sudden. We think he's got versatility to play 4 or 5 positions along the line, and so Frank will get him in the right spot for us, and he'll be competing to be a real contributor for us.
Yeah, it's amazing. You never know where the runs are going to happen. I mean, at the end of the first round, the first night, there was the edge rush run, a little bit. I think it was 4 out of 5 picks. Boom, all the edge rush guys going. I'm like, that's a little disappointing, but there's still a really good offensive lineman. Then you're okay. When's the O-line run going to be? And I thought you were gutsy, Duke, because they started running. I mean, a few of those linemen started going. I'm like, oh man, is he going to be there? Is he going to be there or not? And the fact that he was there, but all those guys that got picked, that was a universe of linemen that you felt comfortable about, but you really liked, Jackson, obviously.
Correct. Yeah. And everything's a calculated guess when it comes to the draft. You never know what any team is going to do in front of you. So there is a risk in moving down. Sometimes it pays off. Sometimes you have to move to another player. So thankfully this year we didn't have to do that.
It's funny. A lot of people are, and this must drive you nuts. I mean, obviously it gets the NFL a lot of publicity, but all these draft gurus, the Mel Kipers of the world, they have their opinions. And it's ridiculous. I didn't have this guy. It'll go 3rd round, 4th round, whatever. All the football people that I talked to had him going. I said, do you think he'll be there at 38? And a big majority, he might be, he might not be. So this is exactly where most football people that I talked to had him going. It was late 1, early 2, and you guys were able to get him there. You obviously feel pretty good about that pick.
Yeah, we really do. He's going to be a big piece of what we do.
No question. No question. And like you said, position versatility. He can, like Witt started his career at guard and then kicked out to tackle. I mean, Jackson Carman has the ability, like you said, both mentally and physically to do the same thing.
Right. Yeah, he has very few limitations on his ceiling. He's built for the NFL, and he's built for our division. He's a big, powerful guy.
Yep. AFC North, man, you're right. You got to have some big horses up front. All right, so then you go to the third round. Joseph Osai from, is that how you pronounce it, Osai? Or,
Yep.
Yep, from Texas. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't he have the best 10-yard time of any edge rush guy? I mean, he's pretty explosive, isn't he?
That's what we like about him. He's a very hard playing guy. So football means a lot to him because you can see it when the tape comes on. You can see that football he enjoys playing, and he plays it the right way. He plays it full speed and physical. And so those things came off the tape. And then his ability to have, like you said, initial quickness, initial explosion. We think he's going to give us some pass rush outside on the edge that we needed. And, sky's the limit for him. He's going to have to come in and earn it. But it's a position that we felt like we needed another wave of rushers to come onto the field. And so we were happy that he was available to us.
The H-men, you got you got Hubbard and Hendrickson, and then this guy, all the same type of guy. Empty the effort bucket. Man, they're going from the snap to the whistle, man, and they're going to give you everything they've got. That's what you were looking for a trade, obviously.
Well, that's what everybody looks for in a trade. Nobody likes a lazy player or a soft player or a player that plays like he doesn't enjoy, what the game's about. And you've got to enjoy what the game's about. If you're going to play in the NFL along the line of scrimmage and you're not sure you like it, it's going to show pretty quick.
No doubt. So then in the next round, in the fourth round, your selection is Cam Sample, defensive end out of Temple, and he's one of the multiple picks you had that really showed well at the Senior Bowl against, big school competition, the prime potential draft picks, that pool of players. He shows up big time and gets defensive player of the game, I think it was, in the Senior Bowl. Tell us about this dude.
Another guy that empties the tank. And really what we like about him is he's versatile to go inside and rush over guards and can play on the outside. He can rush the edge. And then he's a pretty darn good rundown player as well that you can put in and feel good that he's going to set the edge and be a physical player for us. So he gives us inside out versatility and another guy that enjoys the game and plays hard.
This is something that seems to be a common thread. Almost every player you're talking about, Duke, that you guys have drafted, either offensive line, defensive line in this group of 7, position versatility is a must, isn't it?
I think in anybody's defensive scheme, versatility is going to matter. Corners that can play both inside and outside, safeties that can play down and high. You want guys that have more than a one-trick pony type skill set. And it allows you to be more multiple, and it allows you to have different options to get the matchups you want on game day.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
And that even applies to Jamar Chase. I mean, I think he's going to be a Pro Bowl caliber X, split end out there all by his lonesome. He can go in the slot. I mean, he can go inside. I mean, that guy gives you a position versatility as well in terms of trying to find the best matchup too, doesn't he?
Absolutely. We've got some guys in the receiving core that are going to be matchup problems for people, and it's not just 3 deep; it goes beyond that. And so it'll be up to the coaches to put these guys in the best position. But they all have versatility, and they all have a trait that's going to bother our opponent, and that's a good thing to have.
And then with one of the 4th round picks that you got in the trade, take Tyler Shelvin out of LSU, big boy. I mean. Yeah. 350-ish kind of guy, but I'll tell you, he's not on the ground much. The dude has feet. He's a pretty good athlete, isn't he?
He really is a unique player because of his ability to stay on his feet and show explosiveness, and then with the huge size, that's something that we felt like we needed to add to our defense. First and second down will be big for him. It'll be an opportunity for us to reset the line of scrimmage. certainly in rundown areas. And then he certainly has the ability to push the pocket and drive a center or a guard back into the quarterback's lap, make the quarterback move. So it's a different way to rush the passer, but he's got the power to push the pocket back in a passing situation. And then obviously he's going to make his money stopping the run and resetting the line of scrimmage in the run game.
So in the last couple of years, you drafted Joe Burrow. And this year you draft Chase. Burrow number 1, Chase number 5. During the offseason, you acquire Moss. He's let go by the Washington football team. You pick up Moss at the tight end position. Now you go on the other side of the football and you pick up Shelvin, the defensive tackle with the Bayou Bengals. The Bayou Bengals coming to the Cincinnati Bengals. That team in 2019 might have been as good a college football team as ever has been assembled. I mean, nothing wrong with getting talent off of that group, is there?
There's a reason they won. They had a lot of talent, and so it doesn't necessarily matter where they come from, but they have to have the talent, and these guys do, and they certainly know what winning looks like, and that's important too.
No doubt, winning at the highest level. So then with the second, 4th round pick, you stay in the trenches and you go after a guy, Deontay Smith, and 35-inch arms, 85-inch wingspan. This dude can tie his shoes without bending over, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, and he had a tough season. He had real COVID issues. He was a close contact. He was out. He missed time. He dropped some weight and showed up at the Senior Bowl and competed hard. Really came alive to our scouting department at the Senior Bowl. And then with his traits and what we believe his weight potential to be, he's a guy that has real upside in this league because of what you said, because he's got length, he's a physical player, and he's got good balance and good quickness. So a lot of good traits there to develop and work with.
What kind of weight do you think he'd be comfortable carrying, Duke? About 320?
I don't know. I think he can carry whatever you want. We'll have to go and see, how he feels at different weights. Adding weight won't be a problem. Adding good weight, that'll be what we're focused on. But
right.
I don't think there's any limit to it. He could easily be, a big 320, 325 pound guy if he can add it the right way. And
right.
So he's got the frame to do it, and he's got the length to play in this league.
Do you envision him staying at the tackle position, developing solely as a tackle at this point in time?
That'll be up to the coaches. I think that's where his traits lend, the best upside is outside at tackle. But, everybody has to cross train. On our offensive line, we found out last year, you're going to lose pieces and guys have to be able to cross train. So whether it's Quentin Spain playing right guard one game and right tackle the next game, you're going to have to cross train a little bit. But I think Deontay's upside is going to be at tackle in this league.
Yeah, he's an interesting prospect to say the least. So then in the 5th round, this one has gotten a lot of buzz. You end up going with the kicker, and you talk about a howitzer hanging off his right hip. This guy McPherson, he can blast a football, can he?
Yeah, very talented kid. He's hit a lot of clutch kicks in his career, and a really impressive workout. Darren came back very impressed, after his workout, and we feel he's got a big NFL upside. He's going to have to come in and do it, but I think the sky's the limit for him, and we were happy to it's one of the reasons you try to get extra picks is you feel more comfortable maybe taking a specialist at some point, and we felt like that was the right time to take him if we wanted him, and we wanted him. So
you even talked about that potentially, if you could make the trade, that might be a potential byproduct.
Dave, you give us more credit than what we deserve. When you're making a trade, there isn't a hell of a lot of time to talk about every different angle. But we made the trade because we wanted the extra picks. But a byproduct of the extra picks is then allowing you to maybe take a position that you wouldn't have otherwise considered with our team needs elsewhere. So when we're on the clock making that trade, we're not talking about taking a kicker in the
not talking about the kicker from Florida. No. Right. So Darren said though that in his mind, when he was down there working them out, there were multiple special teams coaches there. A lot of teams needed a kicker. He felt like he had to take him around earlier potentially than maybe you might want to. And the fact that you have those extra picks made that decision easier?
Sure. Sure it did. We felt great coming out of the fourth round that we addressed some things that we wanted to address with players that were worthy of the pick. And we knew we had 3 more picks coming. And so we felt like it was the right time. If we wanted him, this was the opportunity, and we jumped on it.
All right. So with the 6th pick, you take you go offensive line again, and you take Hill, the center from Georgia, and Hill and Shelvin have gone head to head. Georgia LSU nose guard center. That had to be a stirring battle, I'm sure. But and again, I'm sure there were probably players at multiple positions. When you took the kicker, you think, well, geez, we could like this guy, that guy, or that guy, and you get into the 6th round with a couple of your picks, and maybe some of those guys are still there for you to pick from, and you got a couple of options still. That's the way the draft goes. I mean, at this stage of the draft, players are there that should have been drafted around earlier on a lot of teams' boards. That's just the nature of the beast in the NFL draft, isn't it?
Well, it's we tried to stay really disciplined at the back end of the draft to not just say, let's take this position, but let's look at the board and see what's lingering out there that sticks out based on our grades. And that's what we did in the 6th and 7th round. We just took the best guy we had graded. And Hill was a very highly graded guy by us. And he was still there. And I don't think you can go wrong just trust in your grades and trust in your evaluations and the year's worth of work that you put in. And he stuck out on the board, and we said, let's take that one. And we did the same thing the next pick, and we did the same thing in the last pick too.
So Hill, thick-bodied dude. I think he projects really, really well at guard as well as center, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's going to compete at both spots, and I think he's got upside at both spots. So his position versatility will be able to cover 3 spots inside, and he'll get a chance to compete and see what kind of a role he can earn.
So then in the other 6th round pick, you take Chris Evans, running back out of Michigan, and Giovanni Bernard has moved on to Tampa Bay. There's a need for that type of guy. And I guess another guy that really is he really did something at the Senior Bowl. He elevated his stock a little bit down there, beating everybody's linebackers like a drum, didn't he?
Really did. That's where he came alive to us. And the more we got to know him and the more we studied him and got to see him at the pro day, and he just kept sticking out as a guy that has the traits to be a really good NFL player. And this might be a case of a guy that comes in the NFL and has a better NFL career maybe than he did in college. And but we just really like the upside that we see. He's got size, he's got really good feet, and he's got a great knack for running routes and catching the ball. And he'll have to learn the pass pro stuff like any NFL running back will have to learn. But he's got the body and the toughness to do it. And so, we were happy he was still there for us. Not a guy that we necessarily would have bet on being there at that time in the draft.
And you look at it as a society, we're a second chance society, and he had an academic adversity that he dealt with. And you talk about football adversity is one thing, but this, is a life adversity scenario that you're facing, and the way he handled it, instead of handling it ways that would not have been as productive. This guy, I think I read where he went out and got 2 or 3 jobs and made commitments to better himself and better his community. I mean, he just did everything absolutely the right way when he did get his second chance.
Yeah, he did. And he probably didn't have the exact role he wanted, but he stayed working. He stayed being a good teammate and being available when his number was called. And again, a guy that I think has a lot of NFL upside and might have a better career on this level than he ended up having it in college.
And your 7th round pick out of Kansas State, Hubert, on the Zoom call, I love this dude. This dude is all football. It was like he started talking about his game plan of breaking down the opponent and ways to attack him and how the coaches had trust in him. And I said, did it get to the point where they just said to you, look, find your best matchup and utilize your best game plan package of moves against them, and you can move anywhere up and down the line of scrimmage? He said, exactly. That's what they did with me. You got to like a guy like that.
Really, if you just grade love of the game, he's as high as you could grade because he plays
Really?
the game like he absolutely loves it. He loves the competition. He's full speed all the time, and he's got traits. He's got real suddenness off the ball, and he's got a nice package of pass rush moves, and he can hold up against the run, and he can play the inside outside roles as well. He played well against the run on the outside, and I think he's got the talent to beat guards inside. So again, just another guy that stuck out on the board, and we at the end just said, hey, let's just take the guy that has the best traits and has the highest grades, rather than trying to reach for a position of a guy that might not have the traits that we want. And there he was, sticking out on the board when our turn came to pick, and fortunately we were disciplined enough to just sit and pick him. And I'm excited he's coming. I really am.
His comps is Hendrickson. People say he's a lot like Trey Hendrickson in terms of body type and size and that sort of thing, and his the just all out effort in his style of play. Do you see those comps?
I think so. Yeah. I think you can compare a lot of people that love the game and play it the way that these guys play it. And
Right.
It's harder to get a guy going than it is to slow a guy down a little bit, and this guy's full speed. And so that's the number one thing you want is do they enjoy playing the game because they like the game, or do they enjoy playing the game because of what the game brings them outside of the game? And I think that, all 10 of these guys enjoy playing the game because they love the game. They love the competition, and they want to win. And so those are things that we try to find in guys, and I'm proud of this group. And I think that this group has those traits.
Yeah, I agree with you. I remember one of the best football coaches I ever had in high school. He said he had two things. Look, I'll put a harness on you and slow you down. I don't ever want to have to light a firecracker under your ass, okay? And I'd be like, yes, sir. And then he said, like all of us have heard, you're going to make a mistake. Try not to make mistakes, but when you do, make sure you're making your mistake at 100% speed, 100% effort. Don't be, just half loafing it and not sure, and you're not going to play if you're doing that. Yes, sir. I mean, those two things make sense. There's no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
At any level, right, Duke? I mean, any.
That's right. What would Lapham do? I hope we make Lapham proud.
Yeah, right. All right. So finally, college free agents. I mean, you've done a hell of a job finding gems.
There's guys, yeah. There's guys after there. It's a hard chore. You try to get on the phone and convince them to come. We'll have our group that we believe we have committed to come to the rookie minicamp. We'll have an announcement as to who those guys are at that time. But we'll get them in the building and get them under contract, and then talk about them at that point. But we think we've got some guys committed to come, and that we're proud of, and that will have a chance to help us out.
Is it all pretty much settled down now, league wide, in terms of college free agents, or could
it settles down about an hour after the draft is when it
Right.
settles down. So it's it's at full tilt right after the last pick is made. That's when guys are off the board, so to speak.
Well, all the draft gurus, they've already got their first 2022 mock draft, which is
Beautiful.
I find unbelievable. So at any rate, you're already, have you moved on? Have you closed the book? And have you guys as a staff, have you already moved on to 2022 at this point?
Oh, I can't say that I've started grinding the 2022 tape yet, but we'll get on it pretty soon here. It will be within the month that we'll start. We'll start, getting our school calls, set for next year, and hopefully we're able to actually get 2 schools next year. We'll be setting our areas for our scouts and seeing where the prospects are, and trying to identify maybe underclassmen that might be thinking about coming out. And so the process will get started here, towards the end of the month.
Well, congratulations on another strong draft, Duke. I think the move you made to get those 2 fourth rounders from the New England Patriots definitely made the draft. In my mind, that's where the heart and soul of the draft is. A lot of years, right at that spot when you got three guys instead of one, you got three guys that maybe you like four, and you got three of them instead of just one. That makes your draft big time, doesn't it?
Well, it's a round that we've come up with some guys over history, and that's where we got Geno Atkins, and I want to say Domata Peko was in that
Yep.
round. So there's been a lot of good fourth rounders, and there's certainly we've got high hopes for the group of guys we've got coming in this year too.
Duke, thanks for your time. Appreciate you covering as much as you did, and boy, I'll tell you, you've been grinding hard. You going to take any time to just decompress a little bit, to relax?
Well, I probably won't be burning the midnight oil around here, and maybe I'll get out on the golf course every now and then. So
There you go.
at least for a couple months.
We'll hit them long and straight, my man. Appreciate your time very much.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Duke.